confirm they can hear me, basically.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So, we'll just kickstart. Hopefully, Faye will join us along the line itself. So, hi, welcome. Thank you, guys, for making out time. And yeah, I sent out an assignment, and I was glad at least we were able to do something. Uh, yeah, that's the most important thing. And if there's anything I'm very peculiar about is make an attempt, make the mistakes. Don't shy away, don't hold back. It's from the mistakes you get to learn and you get to become better. I remember my first job. I remember the first day I resumed. Somebody recommended me for the job actually. Um, on my first day of resumption, I had to quickly go and step outside to call the guy, the person, guy, what am I really going to be doing? So it wasn't like, oh, those of us in the game already started off with 100% knowledge. Trust me, we started off as novice. Like I literally had to step out and call him, hey, oh, guy, what am I really doing here? What is my role? As much as I had prepared, I'd read, I'd known, and all of that. So it comes like that, especially from the beginning. So I'm always propagating, um, try, make an attempt, make the mistakes, but most importantly, learn from the mistakes. It is very important. I've said this. I've shared my experience with you guys before about one of the interviews I had, and geez, I defined when they say you walk out with your tails between your leg because I was flawed. Like they really flawed me. They schooled me. They taught me. So it happens. But most importantly, I learned from experiences like that. Yeah, it could be very heartbreaking, but the most important thing was learn and become better. So a quite of us did well, and a good number of us could have done better, but it's understandable. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I'm going to show you an excerpt of what I was probably expecting. A few of us did it, but if most of us didn't. So just a moment, I'll be sharing my screen right now. Please confirm you can see my screen, guys.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, just a moment. I know I stopped sharing. Can you also just confirm? Sorry about that. That you can see the screen now. Can you please confirm that you can see the screen?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So I understand that a few of us are used to, or from what we've read, we expected that, oh, for every application you work on, you're probably going to have like a documentation, an RS documentation stating the requirements and all of those things. But the reality is there are companies you will join that are very big on documentations, and there are companies you will join that they have little or no documentation. So what I do most times, or what I'm trying to do, is actually preparing you for any casualty or any scenario that plays out. If you are fortunate to join a company that's big on documentation, very good. You pick it up, and hopefully you are able to interpret what is written in documentation, and you are able to prepare your test case. And also, fortunately, I don't like using the word unfortunately. If you are fortunate to join a company that is not big on documentation, they expect you to understand the application on the fly, on the go. The more you work with it, the more you come to understand it. You also need to still prepare your test case. And in such case, will you say because you don't have documentation, you are not going to work? No, it doesn't work like that. That was why I really did spell out performing exploratory testing on the application. And I believe at least we should by now understand what exploratory testing is. Even if you didn't or you've not heard it before, the moment you saw it, I expect you to probably read up on it or Google search what exploratory testing is generally. For a few of us that are not conversant with it, it's obviously exploring an application first. It is the place where you explore the application. You are exploring it to become familiar with the application itself. That is why I said perform exploratory testing. I understand I didn't give you the SRS or the documentation of the application I sent to you, the web application I sent to you to test. But I actually did tell you to explore the application. Explore is while I'm exploring the application, I am getting familiar with the application. I am seeing scenarios I can test. I am documenting it. I'm preparing my test case already. So that is one angle. That is like the first part of the assignment itself. That is like the first thing I expect you as a QA engineer or as a software tester to do. Play around the application. It is in playing around that you become familiar with the application. It is in playing around that you understand the need for the application itself. So that was what I was expecting. And I pray, because that's very important, that you guys actually did that. So it's very important. After doing that, I believe you should have at least first-hand knowledge of the application itself. Not at least to a larger extent, but at least you have a basic knowledge of what the application is supposed to do. And actually, that is not a real application. Nobody uses it. It is just like a demo application. It is used for QA engineers. I remember when I was trying to get into a company, that was where I got familiar with the site. It was one of the sites they gave me to automate. I performed the automation testing on the application, that was the one I sent to you guys. So that's why I told you guys to just perform manual testing and prepare your test case on the side. So having done that, having explored the application, play around, click on the buttons and all of those things, because trust me, the higher percentage of your work is interaction. As much as we would document, as much as we would state out requirements and all of those things, larger chunk of your time as a QA engineer is working on the application itself, is getting familiar with the system itself. That is where the larger chunk of your work relies on. Clicking this button, performing end-to-end testing, doing back and forth, imputing data, negative tests, positive tests, and getting results. That is what it does entail. That is what your job entails. That is basically what I do day to day. As much as I'm working on my test case, I must interact with the system, because it is in my interaction with the system I become familiar with the system. You can only see finish can only occur when you have overknown somebody. So that is the extent you get to. I don't know, maybe some of us are still familiar with the word see finish, but I trust the Nigeria guys to still understand. When they say somebody see me finish, that means the person has seen the back and front of you. So that is the extent you need to get to with these applications you are going to be working on. You need to see the application finish. When you see finish, that's when you can now start thinking about edge cases. Edge cases are scenarios that would not naturally occur. So those scenarios we didn't think about, we didn't consider, or developers didn't consider when they were developing the application or when they were writing the code. So those are the things we put into consideration. When you're even able to bring out a lot of edge cases on an application, that is where those are one of the skills they would use to respect you working on a job. The ability for you to think outside the box. Oh, what could have happened? What can I do? How can I really disrupt this application? Because, like I said, end users can be very funny people. They can be very weird people. People are wired differently. It is expected that maybe an application is supposed to load for a certain period before you click on the next button. Trust me, there are people that are very curious, and they will not wait for the load time before they've done what they need to do. And those are the things you might not put into consideration while you are testing the application. And lo and behold, application crashes. And they start asking questions. Didn't you do this? Didn't you check it? Didn't you think about this? So those are the things that can only occur with you getting familiar, becoming familiar with the application itself. So that is more of your soft skill on the job itself. Now, one of the hard skill is documentation. And that is what we are currently going to look into. That is the hard copy I get. That is what I get to see. That is what I get to actually interact with, basically. So looking at this I have here, I knowingly spelled out the part of the applications you have to test. I knowingly spelled it out, the part of the application you have to test. I remember I mentioned the home screen, the sign up, the contacts, the login, the cards. I knowingly spelled it out. And why? For example, for a few of us, with what we did in what we submitted, we modeled all of the modules, all of the places I told us to do. We modeled all of them in the same sheet. And trust me, it could be difficult maintaining such type of test case document. It can be very difficult trying to maintain it. Maintenance means I might need to add a few test cases to it. I might need to remove some. I might need to just maintain it generally. In such scenario, it's going to be very difficult for anybody. If you are not the one handling it from the beginning to the end, if any other person picks it up, they will find it tedious. Imagine I give you a test case and I told you, and I'm presenting this test case, for example, now to you, this document to you, this test case documentation to you. It is very easy to navigate. How? This is my home page test script, test case. Everything here is just from the home page. I know a few of us are not really familiar with Excel sheets, and we probably might not know how to go around some of this Microsoft Office package. But on the long run, if it requires you to have a crash course on it, I will advise you to. Some people find it easy to navigate these things, even if they've not interacted with it before. But a few of us might need to just do a crash course on it. Crash courses are no long than probably maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour at most. At least crash course on how to navigate this, how to do this, and at least you have basic knowledge. And while interacting with the application, you find your way around it. So if somebody should give me this is properly documented. I have my home page here. I have my sign up page here. These are the test case for my sign up. These are the test scenarios, my test case here. So if I want to maintain sign up now, all I need to just do is click on this sign up. These are the test cases for sign up here. If I also want to maintain contact, this thing sign up page, it is here. Just the same thing for login, same thing for cards, the same thing for about and categories. Yes, I know this might look a bit engineered because it's coming from a professional point of view, a professional setup. Don't let me start making people feel bad. Actually, when I started off, I didn't start with this. But I started with something close to this, but I ensured I had it in different pages. It was probably not set up like this, but it was different pages, different page or sheets where I could easily maintain. So please, moving forward, for a few of us that have done this, you might need to just go back and adopt this principle. You might need to go back and adopt this method. It makes work easier. It makes reading it easier. If I need to work up or maybe add up some test cases for login page, for example, what I need to just do is click on login and I go down here and I continue from where she stopped. It's very easy. Unlike when I have all of them in one single page, it can be very difficult to maintain. So please, moving forward, let's try and adopt this measure. This is not even mine. This is somebody I've taught in time past. I had to go dig up our test case rather. Does anybody have any question pertaining to this? The floor is open, guys. Please ask your questions. So far, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you sign us something like this so that we can also have it as a reference point?
No problem. That's no problem. I would be glad to send this to you guys. No, I'll send it on the group. I'll send the format like this on the group. So you can always work with this. All you need to do if you want to create another page, or if you want to do is just add new sheets or duplicate. It gives you another sheet, another screen. It's very easy to maintain. So I'll do that. I'll send it to the group. I'll send it to the group. So please, moving forward, anywhere you find yourself, adopt this method. It helps. It's very helpful. It helps you maintain things and all of those things. So now we move to the content in it. I saw one. I just don't want to laugh. I only saw, I think, test title. I didn't even see test execution steps. It's very important. Another thing you need to actually do in most cases is ask questions. For example, I could tell you to prepare a test case, and that was what I told you guys to do. I didn't say execute the test case. A larger chunk of us executed the test case. For example, if you go to some interviews, they could tell you maybe your assessment could be prepare a test case for a particular website, and they'll give it to you. It could be to your detriment if you go and execute the test case and write pass, fail, pass, and all of those things. So if it is not right and rightly spelled out, in most times I advise to ask questions. Do I execute the test case or do I just prepare the test case? If it is strictly spelled out, prepare a test case. I know these are things I probably should have spelled out, but in interview in the real world, nobody would come and you can't hold anybody accountable to it. It is left for you to use your discretion as a QA engineer or to ask questions. But I always advise asking questions for clarity so that you and whoever sets the assessment are on the same page. Because a few people don't appreciate initiative. They don't appreciate you doing what you believe should be done. They believe more in asking questions. You should have come and ask me. That's what they'll tell you. So I expect your test case should have an ID. It should have a test title. It should have a test scenario. It should have test execution steps. Because you might not be the one to execute your test case. I repeat that you might not be the one to execute your test case. Sometimes if you get on a team, they might just tell you to prepare a test case, or yeah, I delegate this or I assign this test case to Kola Joe or Feyi or Godson. Do this. After we are all done, we could all gather it up on the same document sheet. Everybody has access to it, and they've delegated maybe a particular page or module you are going to be working on. They could now reassign that, okay, Kola Joe, execute this one. Feyi, execute this. Then it begins to, you now need to, then you now come to understand the need to have your what's it called, execution steps, because anybody that comes to pick it or that picks it up can see how to execute whatever scenarios you have outlined. So please and please let us note it. And like I said, it is very important to communicate properly, written wise. It is very, very important. You might not be the one to execute what you're going to be working on. So whoever is going to pick it up or who's going to execute the test case has to be able to understand everything. It has to be broken down to the simplest form, step by step. I need to know that this is what I'm to do. Don't jump any steps. It should be self-explanatory. Ability for me to pick it up and understand everything word for word. So please let us also note that. And another thing you need to have here is your expected results. If there are no defects or there are no bugs in that particular feature you are testing, what is expected? What should happen? For example, now the test title is about functionality, or maybe just about us. I might just even take out this functionality part. Testing and validate that the about button is clickable. Test execution steps, open the application, or maybe open your web browser, demoblaze.com. once it loads, you click on the About Us button. Expected result, About Us button must be clickable, and it must take you to the About Us page. So those are the things you need to note in your expected result. Actual result is when I now execute the test case. Whatever you get there is what you write out there. One of the flexibility this particular, has, this test case I'm working on, or the one I have with me now, is it helps you document the number of pass, fail, and all of those things. It helps you document it, so that after I'm done, I can really tell how many pass I have in this test case or how many fail I have in this test case. So that's what it does. What is the status? Pass. It becomes 1 year. If this is fail, I have 1% here. So these are the reports. These are what what's it called? This is what makes up your test report. So after we are done, we said we are done testing, they've done all the fixes and all of those things. If we have issues still pending, and they tell you they need us to prepare our test reports, these are the things we put into consideration. Our test summary. So I can tell the percentage of pass, I can tell the percentage of not available, I can tell the percentage of not executed. It shows me the percentage. It shows me what is left, what should be worked on, and all of those things. So generally, this is like this is what I hope you will get to meet. And even if you don't get to meet it, I hope this is what you will get to be able to introduce. This is what you get to be able to introduce anywhere you find yourself. So it is very important we note that. Yeah, I think that's like a larger chunk of what your test case should have. But most importantly, let it be sectioned. Let it be sectioned, because then we can maintain it. Then it is maintainable. Any questions from you guys before I stop sharing and move to the class to this topic? Any questions? Tuyo, Umi, Kolajo?
Yeah, I have
Watson?
a question.
Okay, I'm
I
listening.
have a yes. You said something. You said you didn't ask us to execute the test cases. So what were we supposed to
Yes.
do? To just write the title, the test scenario, and leave the expected result out, or the steps for execution out, or the
No,
actual result?
what you're supposed to leave out is the actual result and the status. When I execute this now,
Okay.
is after now this is not executed. But the moment I execute it,
Yes.
I can now tell if it is a pass, then I give the actual results. And if there's a bug, if it's a fail, I can now tell the severity. Do you understand now?
Mm, yeah.
So that's what
Okay.
happens. So that's what happens generally.
Okay. 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 Thank you.
So sorry, I'm a bit confused about something. In exploratory testing, we don't have any software requirements. Are we not supposed to Are we not supposed to execute and be familiar? And if we have executed, like we have done something on the website while working on it, is it not supposed to appear in our test sheet?
Why I said so is you might not be the one to execute it. In some organizations, you might not be the one to execute whatever test case you develop. Mine is your interaction with the application is to become familiar, is to be able to think about test scenarios on the application. Execution could now be for somebody else. The essence of your interaction is to become familiar, to know what to write, to know what the application is all about, what are the scenarios I should put into check or I should put into thought while preparing my test case. Not necessarily after you are done writing it or while you are doing your exploratory testing, you're now writing your test case and executing it. You could, if you are the only one on the project, you could decide to do it like that. But in a proper organizational setup, most times just prepare the test case. If you are now directed to execute it, please move ahead. But I'm saying from some interview experience, even Tarek raised that, what's it called? If any of you remember, Tarek in the Udemy course I suggested, Tarek raised that. He said he has had some people in interviews where he will tell them to prepare a test case. And in most cases, they get to execute it when he didn't ask them to. All he only just required of them is to prepare a test case. So that's one of the things that informed my saying whatever I said about you might not be the one to execute the test case. But the main essence of exploratory is become familiar, explore the application. Does that answer your question, Kolajo?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, thank you.
And it's
Any other
Olajo.
Kolajo? Hey, I've called you Kolajo like from the beginning of the class. Apologies about that. Kolajo. Hopefully hopefully that becomes key in my tongue because I've gotten used to Kolajo. But no problem. Apologies about the mispronunciation of your name. Any other question, guys?
Sorry, Chief. I'm
Alpha.
just coming in. Yeah. Sorry. I'm a little bit confused. So, like, each test case should be like on a sheet. Yeah.
Yes.
So it shouldn't be like the whole
No.
of the test cases should be like one Excel sheet.
Yeah. This is like an Excel sheet now. An Excel file, but it has different sheets. Do you understand?
Right. No, I actually had this thing, what do you call it? A format that each test case could be on. No, sorry. How will I put it? Anymore, sorry. Like
Wake up.
what I mean
Well,
is
I get what you're trying to
each
say is you have something like this that gives you opportunity to write each what's it called module or page on a separate sheet. Is that what you're trying to say?
yeah. Like each scenario, like each
Yeah.
module, yeah, each item.
Yeah.
So each item should be on a sheet.
Yes.
So if you're having like um 10, 10 items, you have
Yeah.
10 Excel sheets.
Yes. 10 sheets, but
Is that
all
okay?
of them in the same file. They're in one file.
Yeah, I understand. Would that not be rather cumbersome?
Wait. Now imagine each 10 cases, 10 page, for example, now has 10 or maybe 20 test cases or test scenario. Imagine me putting it in just this particular file, this about us alone. Imagine. Which one is more cumbersome? I need your response, Feyi.
No, it depends on it depends. There's I mean, we'll say it's your
Imagine
law. Do you get for me?
it's your law. Wow.
Okay, sorry.
You-
Like I mean, like what I mean is,
this is we are not just putting you into consideration alone. It is about those that sometimes in most, especially in tech startups, in tech industries, tech companies, people move. Like somebody can be here, spend 3 or 4 months or 5 months, is in another company. So in moving should not hinder work from going on. There should be no what's it called? It shouldn't affect work too much. Yes, it does, but it shouldn't largely affect work. And why do I say that? It is transition with good proper documentation. It helps anybody that is coming in easily on board on the project itself. Imagine when I have our for sign up, for contacts, for login, I have all of them in this same sheet, just like you did yours. It will be too long. If I write, imagine you write the test case 1 for sign up, test case 2 for login, test case 3 for sign up, test case 4 for about us. It is not well arranged. Anybody that wants to maintain it will find it difficult. But the moment it is in different sheets, all I know that anything about here now is all about what's it called? Sign up. There's nothing, contact page or contact module should not have anything to do here. Let me share my screen for a real life project. Just a moment, guys. Confirm you can see my screen.
Yeah.
For example, now this is like a project. This new Indigo is an hospital management system. It's one of the one of the projects I worked on, and we have plenty. At least we're like 9 or 10 Q engineers on this project alone. I have onboarding. See, look at what onboarding is here. I have branch store. I have reports. I have front desk. I have settings. I have laboratory. It is endless. Production box sheet. This is plenty. You now imagine all of this. I'm putting it in one page. How do I assess them? It's almost impossible. So that is why we need to section each in a sheet, in a particular sheet. For example, this is one of the box sheets we used to report issues on it and all of those things. This is one. This is another. This is this. So sectioning generally just helps you maintain a proper page. I know that if I need to visit the box sheet, I know where to go to. I know where to visit. So those are the things we put into consideration for proper documentation. It helps make your work easier. So does that answer? I will not call it answer to question, but hope this is enough. What's it called? Reason for you to see from my own perspective. Faye?
Please hold on. Let me. I want to look at your this thing well.
Not to worry. I'll send like what's it called? A prototype of this on the group, so you can have a source copy. All you need to just do is go to file and make a copy, because the one I was sent, you'll not be able to edit it. So once I send it on the group and you are able to open it like this, all you need to do is make a copy. So once you make a copy, it opens a new one that has all of this for you. Or you're able to edit that one now. Do you understand, guys? So please, the one I'm going to, you might not be able to access it because from here, I would have restricted it. I would have, I would let those that know that they can have access to it and all of that. So only thing I'll just provide is the link. So if you want to do yours, you would make a new copy, and from there you can play around it and all of that. So hopefully that answers your questions, Faye. Am I good?
Okay, so for that particular sheet, that last sheet you showed, yeah.
Yes.
So it was just for sidebar, I mean.
No, this is like the whole project itself.
Oh, okay. Like after execution, you now put everything in one.
Yeah. I'm seeing what you're trying to say. I know that's for sidebar in that module, in that page. You only just saw sidebar for that module. On that sidebar, there's dashboard, there's calendar. So those are like the actions performed on that particular module itself.
Oh, okay. So that part, that last sheet was just for sidebar, I mean.
No. Let me. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
No.
Just a moment. It's actually good we take our time to understand these things, because this is like the foundation of work itself. So can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
So this is dashboard. So for the person really understands what's it called, Excel. So dashboard, this is one scenario, test scenario. This is one test execution steps and expected results. So everything here are scenarios. Do you understand what the person did here now?
Mm-hmm.
So dashboard for all of this, all these scenarios for patients from 50 to 71, everything are test scenarios, test execution steps for patients alone. So all of these things is knowing how to handle Excel sheets properly, and you won't find it difficult. But a few of us that really don't understand or can still just at least understand the concept, and a crash course, like I said, it will not do you any harm. It will help make you understand it better and how to use the tool itself.
Sorry, no vex. So does it mean that it was after you are done with the whole execution that you now put everything in one sheet like this?
No. This is what we used to prepare our test case now. This is what we used to prepare test case. This one now, let me see the one I opened for. This test case for top-down, new top-down, what's it called, testing. This is one for what's it called, inventory. It's an hospital management service, and they use inventories and all of those things. So this is the one for inventory. This is the one for pharmacy. So for dashboard in pharmacy, verify this, expected results, severity, verify user is taking, and all of those things. Does that answer your question, Kolajo? Feyi rather. Kolajo. Feyi, does this answer your question? Do you understand it better now?
I guess um the format that I have is maybe the one confusing me.
Yes, it might be, but everything should still be about how will I put it? Everything should still be effective. It's not a must you give me this format the way I have it on my screen here. It's not a must. When I started off, I didn't have this format. It was one of the organizations that I worked with. They had something like this, and I saw that this is good. I picked it up.
Oh, sorry. Are you saying that the test scenario has to always be in your test case, not like test scenario separately?
It has to be in your test case. Your test
Oh,
scenario
okay.
maybe if you are working with any management tool or any test case management tool. In all those ones, all you need to just is test scenarios. You might not necessarily put what's it called, your test execution steps. If you look at what Tarek did in his material, test scenarios majorly came with when he was talking about Trello. So the only thing he what's it called, he entered there with test scenarios. He didn't really enter test execution scripts. But for your test case, your test scenario, your test title, test execution steps, expected result, status, those are the things you put into consideration. If it is an application they are building on mobile and web, you could have maybe iOS or Android here, and you could have maybe web here. So those are the things you just had. You just just structure it in a way that it fits into whatever you are doing. Does that answer your question?
Okay. So, sorry, so sorry that I'm drawing you back here. So it means, I mean, for example, the one I did, what I should have
Yeah.
done should have been, instead of making the test scenario separate, I should have put it in my test case.
Yes. Yes, it should have. But I actually did even I liked the format of what you did because I checked it. But the only thing that I noticed was what I talked about, sectioning. Like when you section it, it's easy for me to know which year is which. and it will be very easy for me to maintain. Anybody that picks it up, if you're not around, it will be very easy for the person to maintain. But when you now put all of them in the same sheet, all the modules and page in the same sheet, it's pretty difficult. But as per content, I think you did well. I saw it, and I must commend that.
Now, when
Shall
you
we go down?
volunteer Milan, when you say shit, yeah, I think what you mean is the line, yeah.
Yeah, this is a sheet, for example. Now, this is one
Yeah.
sheet. This is a sheet. This is another sheet. This is another sheet. Do you get now?
Okay, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. This is a sheet now. This is a sheet now. This is another sheet entirely. But all of them are in the same folder or in the same Excel what's it called, documents. But they are different. It's just like a file you have in an office now. The file will get cover, it has an hard cover. But there are different papers. There are different sheet of papers inside the file. So the Excel is like the Excel folder is like the file. But inside that file, there are different sheets, different papers inside. That's what I'm just trying to explain. Is you now, all of them, you put it in one paper. But now I am sectioning mine so that if anybody wants to look at for about us, once they see the headline, this is for about us, they just pick it up and they can do whatever they need to do. Other than I'm looking for about us and it's in the middle of one sheet that you wrote everything inside, it will be difficult to locate and it will be hard to maintain. Does that explain or does that give more clarity to what you're trying to get?
Okay, so for example, I asked my test case. Let's say my test case ID was like maybe 10 thereabouts. So for
Yeah.
each one to be on a sheet.
You know what? Let's meet behind the camera so that we will not confuse the people that are not confused.
No vex, because
let's meet behind the camera. This is a test case ID. Can you see the screen?
mm-hmm.
This is a test case for sign up. So for sign up, these are test case 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you get now?
Right. Okay.
So for contact,
okay.
He has his own test case 1, test case 2, 3, and 4. Do you understand? Login has his own test case.
No worry. I don't get that.
Yeah.
I don't look your arrow well before. I just
No problem. So I think we really no at all. It's my work. I can't complain. I'm more about you understanding that we're trying to rush things. No. I won't do anybody any good. So let's move to today's class. Basically, today we're talking about Postman and what is Postman and what is Postman used for. What do we use Postman for? Just a moment. Let me share my screen. Please confirm you can see my screen.
No.
Okay. What about now? Any difference?
No, I don't
Any
see
difference,
it.
guys?
Oh, I see it now.
Okay. You can see it now.
Yeah.
Okay. So today we're talking about Postman and what Postman does generally. Postman is used for performing API testing. And can we still remember what we talked about in API testing? Guys, I need a response. Who should I put on the spot? Caller Joe. Okay, yeah. Can you please remind us what we talked about in API? At least the basic understanding you had, and if you could give us a scenario, can you help us out?
From what I remember, the API is a programming like interface or programming software. It's probably is like a bridge between your database and your, what do you call it? It's basically a bridge between that used to communicate between one end, front end and back end. Like, I remember that you said like a waiter. The API is like the waiter between the customer and the kitchen. So the API is the waiter. It takes your request. So the kitchen does whatever they have to, in the back, then brings it out like results and brings it back to the customer. That's what I remember what you said.
This is a proud moment for me. It's a proud moment for me. It actually makes me know that you guys are getting it or you understood the concept itself generally. Thank you very much. Like Kolajo said, it's API, meaning is application programming interface. It's like the interface between the back end and the front end generally. It is what you send on an errand. For the front end maybe requires a particular image, for example. All of this image, numbers, figures has been stored in the backend, and the backend entails largely your database. And I remember we've talked about database, and I told us to read about it generally. So anything I tell us to probably read up on and all of that, on the long run, you're still going to need it. You might not need it instantly, but understanding it, knowing what it does, helps save us a lot moving forward, because the higher you get, the deeper you get, the more technical it becomes. So it's better you understand the concepts, how it works from the inception. While going deep, it becomes more clearer, it becomes more easier, hopefully, but at least you're coming to terms with the technicalities of things. So API generally is what interfaces between the front end and the back end. And like Kolajo said, it has, like, for example, a typical scenario I painted was the waiter in a restaurant. You come, you're the front end, you sit as the customer, and the people in the kitchen at the back end. So I could make a request via the waiter, help me create this, maybe help me, I need this food. That means they need to create, and create is like post. Help me create this. They'll go to the kitchen, they will create a particular thing. They could maybe help me delete, help me put, help me patch. Those are the requests you get familiar with in API generally. So let's just kickstart with this. Postman is one of the most popular software testing tool, which is used for API testing. Actually, there are other types of API testing tool that we have out there, but the most prominent one, at least I've worked across in 3 or 4 organizations, and outside even where I work, a larger chunk of them, or even almost all of them, use Postman for testing their APIs. Other ones we have is called SOAP UI. We also have Catalog Studio. We have what's it called? RPG. We have Swagger. have Tricensis, Tosca. There are plenty. There are a lot. They're pretty much a lot. A lot of them out there. But the most prominent one is actually Postman. And it's largely due to how flexible it is, how easy to use it is, and some of the other features it entails generally. With the help of these two, developers can easily create, test, share, and document APIs. This tutorial will help in understanding why Postman is so famous and what makes it unique when compared to other API testing tools. All the examples in these tutorials are tested and can be imported in Postman generally. So introduction to Postman. Postman is a standalone software testing API, application programming interface, platform to build, test, design, modify, and document APIs. It is a simple graphic user interface for sending and viewing HTTP requests and responses. Not to worry, we will get familiar with what HTTP is, and the requests we are going to become familiar with in API generally. While using Postman for testing purposes, one doesn't need to write any HTTP client network code. Instead, we build test suite called collections and let Postman interact with the API. Collection generally is collection of tests. It's just like the Excel sheet, for example, now. The Excel is like a folder. There are different sheets inside it. Collection, we use the word collection in API or Postman as combination or collection of tests, but they are all enclosed in a particular folder called collection. So most times when you come on board and they want you to test an API, for example, in a company, what they expect you to request or what they will send to you is called collection. Collection is where all the API has been written, all the tests, all the APIs are enclosed, all the requests, all the tests generally. That is where it has been enclosed. So it is called a collection. I understand that as for many of us that has gotten the material on Udemy, you will get to read or understand this in depth. What I do here is introduce you to the basics, why we need to, what are the tools you would need. But in depth, you will get on the material. You also get in-depth understanding in all of these reading materials I sent to you, especially the Java T.2. So ensure you take out time to read these things, because there's little to what I would be able to. I need to explain, and I probably also need to practicalize, which can be a lot of work put together. But make out time. This is one of the things you need. It might look hard, especially for those of us that have not had programming background, but please understand it. Put your mind to it. It is very important. In time past, it is expected that as a manual tester, most of what you are required to know are just what I've taught you in the past weeks and what you've read so far. But right now, there's a need to upskill, even as a manual tester. So some of the requirements they will ask of you during your interview is, what did you understand by API? Or what are the tools what is the tool you use to test your APIs? So that's one of the things I've introduced you to, which is Postman. So please take out time, understand it. One of the beautiful things Postman does is it has a section where there's a pre-request test. So there's some basic, you are expected to write a test as what's it called, as a QA engineer working on an API. But one of the good side of Postman is he has helped you. He has some pre-written tests already. All you need to just do is click on it and it runs on your program. But it is expected of you to understand how to write the test. The tests mainly are written in JavaScript. So as many of us that are running from one programming or the other, you don't need to understand programming language, or for example, maybe JavaScript. You don't need to understand it in depth. You don't need to understand it in total, but at least have a basic understanding. Understand the concept of the language itself, variable declarations, how to write at least the minute ones, the loops, the functions, all those minute things. Know how to find your way around it. And like I always say, Is what you don't put your mind to, you but probably find difficult. Yes, even if you put your mind to it, you'll find difficult. You might find it difficult, but in the long run, it becomes clearer. So I understand a few of us have a notion that, oh, programming is hard, it's technical. Yes, it is. But if you put your mind to it, it becomes easier as time goes on. And like I said, you don't need to understand it in depth. And a few of us might even eventually fall in love with it if we pick it up. But at least for a QA engineer, for a software tester, understand, have a basic knowledge, have a basic understanding of it, and it will help you. It will even stand you out. One of the things that have helped me so far is the fact that I had, at least to a large extent, a front-end developer experience. So when I made the switch into QA, it was pretty easy. Not totally easy, but I had an edge because I had understood what was happening in an application. So if I'm testing it, I'll probably know what to test because I have had experience with developing one. So those are the things that are pretty much needed. So for this particular language too, it works with JavaScript, but that should not scare you. The most you need to know is just the basics, and it will help you out because there's a level given to a manual tester, for example. There's a level of respect given to a manual tester, and there's a level of respect given to an automation tester. There's a level of respect given to a manual tester that just does test case. But there's a different level that is given to a manual tester that knows how to handle APIs, that knows how to perform performance testing. Some of these things, you might be lucky not to do it on the job. But in most cases, they would ask you during interviews because a need or an occasion might arise for you to actually work on these things. So it will not be fair on your part and on the part of your employer to now start picking it up. Yes, some jobs might give you the opportunity to learn on the job, but in larger scenarios, in larger cases, when it comes to ITs, dependent on the company, there's no time. There's really no time. Yeah, a few of us or a lot of us learned on the job, but it's advisable to have had at least basic knowledge of these things. So when you eventually want to pick a certain tool, in most cases, you have had experience with one programming language or one particular tool. And if you have been able to, there's a general consensus that says if you've been able to master a particular programming language, it is always easier to pick up another one. They are not too far from each other. They only just speak different languages. All of them, their language. They only just communicate differently, but they are all languages. So please and please don't be scared when you come across it on the material itself. Follow step by step, like I've always advised. The way he does it, do it. Repeat the steps. If he installs this is what you should also install. And if you're finding it difficult, Google is your friend. Know how to use it. And because whatever issue you've had or you are currently having, 1,001 people have had it. And it's always online. There are so many times I've been stuck somewhere. All I need to just know is I need to know how to use the Google search. Once I enter it, it gives me my response. It gives me, I would have seen people ask the same questions and I'm finding difficult. I know we are familiar with some of these things, especially with life hacks, maybe trying to remove the bulb, trying to replace my car tire and all of those things. So 1,001 people have experienced it. It happens in programming too. How do I handle this? How do I write my proper test case? What should I have in it? It will bring it out. So please and please make use of it and don't be scared of any programming language that you come across while going through the material. While using Postman for testing purposes, one doesn't need to write any HTTP client network code. Instead, we build test suites called collections and let Postman interact with the API. In this tool, nearly any functionality that any developer may need is embedded. The tool has the ability to make various types of HTTP requests, like get, post, put, patch, and convert the API to code for languages like JavaScript and Python. So this is we are getting into the nitty-gritty of things. Terminologies related to Postman. API. application programming interface is software that acts as an intermediary for two apps to communicate with each other. Like I've said earlier, the front end and the back end. We use APIs whenever we use an application like Twitter, Facebook, sending text messages or checking the weather over the phone. So what is HTTP? HTTP, because a few of us have been hearing it. The full meaning is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Is the collection of rules for the transmission of data on the World Wide Web, like graphic images, text, video, sound, and other multimedia data. The web users implicitly make use of HTTP as soon as they open web browsers. So what are we saying generally? HTTP is used to make requests. That is what you enter into your address in your web browser, for example. So it's like it's what we use to transmit data. It's like an address. For example, I'm writing a letter, for example, now. Maybe I'm currently in Nigeria and I'm writing a letter to maybe Wumi or Toyosi or Kola Joe or in UK or in Germany or wherever they are. What would stand my address out when I go submit it in a post office is the address that I am designating it to. So that is what will stand whatever letter I have. Imagine all of us just take a particular letter and take our letters to post office and it doesn't have an address. It would probably just get missing, or it will remain in the post office. But the moment there's an address, he knows where it's going to. He knows where to go and fetch the information or where to go and deliver the information. That is what HTTP generally does. For example, a user or browser enters the HTTP request to the server. The server then returns the user's response. This response includes the request status information and may consist of the requested material as well. The most commonly used HTTP methods are get, post, put, patch, add, delete, and options. Not to worry, we're going to look at what these things are. HTTP methods generally are responses or requests. It could be a response, it could be a request. That is what an API does. I could make a get. Okay, get me 2 plates of maybe basmati rice. That's what it's a request. I tell the waiter to get me. That's the API. He goes into the kitchen, they make it, and he comes deliver. That is the response I get from that request that I made. There's always, every request made, there's a response you will get back. For example, I say post. I want to make a post. Post is get is you're fetching data. Fetch something from the backend. Post is put something inside the backend. Maybe, for example, when you fill a form, you are making a post request. That means I am entering data into the backend. I'm entering data into the backend. That is a post request. A put is for updating. I think I have the definitions here, if I'm not wrong. Okay, yeah. Sending a request is as easy as posting a URL into your web browser. We can easily send requests to APIs in Postman. An API request helps you to access or send data from a source. To send the API request, we need an HTTP method. Trust me, these were some of the questions, or these are some of the questions I stumbled on or I was frequently asked in my early stage of interviews. I think it's recently they really don't really ask, but when I started off, I had a lot of questions from HTTP. They'll tell me what does a post does, what does a put does, what does a patch does. They asked me frequently in my early interview days. So please, let's get familiar with what each HTTP method does. Or another people call it HTTP verb. HTTP verb. That is an action. It does an action. So get familiar with method. Some people might call it verb. They are the same thing. Some commonly used methods are post, get, delete, put, and patch. For get, when I make a GET request, that means this HTTP method is used to access the data from an API. Get me this information. That is me making a request that gets me this. That means once I make the HTTP request via the postman, I expect the API to go into the backend or into the database and bring this. A post is, this method transmits new data. For a post, I'm trying to enter new data into the backend. And that requires me entering it in a right format. And the format we use is called JSON. You can note that down, or these are things you will still read up on in materials or in the Udemy tutorial videos you are watching. These are some of the things you get familiar with. There's a particular way or there's a particular method, just as you write your letters. For example, there's a style for informal letter, there's a style for formal letter. So for writing into the backend, writing into the database, there's a particular construct you must follow. If you don't, it will flag it. So that's where JSON comes into play. So you can note that JSON is JSON. Read up on it at your leisure time. But I believe that as many of us that are going through the materials, the videos, and all of those things, you come across this the word itself, and you understand how it is written or the format it entails. One of the other things, the action it performs is delete. This is used to remove or delete the existing data. Maybe you're trying to delete a particular data from the backend. For example, if I want to delete my account in Facebook, for example, once I click the delete account, it's expected that on the backend, I've sent a request for delete. It should delete all of my information in their backend. If they now delete it or they don't delete it, I don't know. US and how they handle their things, but in the natural order, it is expected that such informations are deleted. A patch, for example, this method is used to update the existing data. Patch is used for updating existing data in the backend. Maybe I'm trying to edit my my profile that is already existing there. Whatever I do is called patch. I'm trying to update an existing data in the backend. Put and patch, they are the same thing. They work hand in hand. This method is used to update the existing data. That's what put also does. Without any terminal or code, we can make API requests and review the answers with the help of Postman. Just build a new request and select the send button. You will get the API request. How do we go about it? Installation and updates. Postman can be downloaded from all major operating systems, including Mac, Linux, Windows, as a native app, standalone application. Postman is also available as a Chrome extension application, but it is better to install and use the native app because Postman Chrome extension does not support all the features that the native app has. Steps to download and install the native Postman application. Step 1, go to the link www.postman.com/downloads. Click download for Mac or Windows or Linux based on your operating system. So once you are able to access this link, postman.com/download, you'll be able to download it. So it works like it works as an extension in Chrome, but it also has like a standalone application. I downloaded the application. Once I'm done with this slide, I will show you the application itself and the few works I have done, and you see how it works real time. This is This is how to go about download. Step 2, for downloading the app for Windows, click on the download button and select the particular version opted for the 64-bit version. If you are using a 32-bit OS operating system, you can choose the 32-bit shown in the above image. Ensure you know the spec of your system, of your laptop, before you decide which bit you want to download. Some of us 32-bit, 64-bit. So ensure you are familiar with the specs of your application, of your laptop rather, before you download. Step 3, you can check the download progress on the bottom left if you are using a Chrome browser. We don't know all of this. Step 4, once the installation completes, you will be redirected to a window as shown in the image where you can click on stop signing in and take me straight to the app. As this app can also be used without logging in, or otherwise you will get a new window to sign up. So one of the things it does after you have downloaded it is it gives you option to create an account. In most cases, it's always advisable to create an account so that it helps you save whatever work you have on. If I save it on this particular laptop I'm using, and tomorrow maybe this laptop crashes, and I pick up another laptop, once I download Postman and I still remember my login, I enter my login details, it would continue from where I stopped on this particular laptop. So that's one of the advantage of signing in into the application itself. And I think it's pretty straightforward or pretty easy. It's just signing in, just like your, what's it called? You could sign in with your Google details. It helps you, so you might not need to create a new account and all of those things. This is the page you get. Welcome to Postman. You ask you questions. Tell us a bit about yourself, so we can help get the most out of the Postman. Your name, which of these roles is closest to yours. One of the drop-down options you have here is QA engineer. You'll see front-end developer, back-end developers, and all those things. But I recently just installed one on this new laptop I'm using. It's a Mac, and I picked QA engineer. So this is one of the things you would, what's it called? You will get to see. I really don't want to do much today for this, but I want to show us real time how the application looks like. Any questions moving forward? Any question, guys? Before I move to the application itself. Any questions? Wumi, Kola, Joe, David, Godson, Toyo, Faye. I know it's looking. It might look like what is this saying? I know it can be boring. Any question? Okay. Do you know what, guys? Just unmute. Let me just give us like 10 minutes. Let's cool off because I don't want it to be too much. So, can you guys unmute? Got on with me. Please just take like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Let's just take like 10 minutes break so we can catch our breaths. I know it's been too much, but let's just take like 10 minutes. This is 34 minutes past. So once it's 44, my time now is 6:34, but I don't know what time it is over there. But at least in the next 10 minutes, that is 6, maybe 44 or 45, let's say, we should be back here. So thank you guys. Just drink water, take out
Hello, how is you, hon?
Hi guys, I'm back. I hope you're also back seated. Now we are back seated.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm just gonna show you. I'm gonna bring up the what's it called? Let me just quickly do a roll call. David, you could just raise your hand. Kola, Joe, Wumi, Toyo, Faye, just to let me know you guys are seated, and I'm back on
Yeah,
seat.
sure.
Okay. David, I see you. Toyo, Kola Joe. Okay, I see Kola Joe. Wumi and Toyo, please just confirm. You can raise your hand. Wumi, I see you. Toyo.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you very much. So right now, I'm gonna share my screen. Where are you? Please confirm you can see my screen, you. Can you confirm you can see my screen, guys?
No, I don't see it.
Okay. No problem. Stop sharing. What about now? Can you guys?
Do the same thing.
Oh. I think
Same thing. Oh, I see it now.
okay.
Never mind, it's done. I see it, but it just looks far away.
Okay, just a moment, sorry. Is it visible now?
Yeah, it's still far away.
Okay. What's up now?
Same.
You can see it now.
Yeah, but it just looks far away.
Okay. Let me leave the call and join back, sir. What's up? Is it visible now?
Same thing. It just looks far away.
Any difference?
Same thing. Mm.
Still far away, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's just the way the page is.
Probably.
But it's not so bad though. We can still strain our eyes a little bit so we could continue.
Okay, trying to, just a moment, let me make it brighter. Are the words audible now? Like the letters, are they audible now?
I know if you see
Me, I can see it actually. It's very tiny, but I can still see it.
my eyes no good
I
like
can
that.
see,
But
I can
somebody,
see as well.
somebody using a phone cannot see it.
Oh, all you phone users, apologies to you people. I'm trying to see if I can zoom in. One says, okay. Do you prefer the light or the dark theme?
Light is okay for me. Oh.
Okay. Okay, like I said earlier, there are collections. Collections is what you get from the developer, and it is where the tests, each test for the what's it called API, they are all situated in. So this is the collection sector and section rather, and these are what's it called APIs. This is for a company called Ancoria. This is one of the ones I did while learning. It's called Bootcamp Collection. One of the companies I worked in is called GoCada. This is their API. This is, yeah. So, for example, now, this is GoCada now. These are documents. This is an API. This is a GET API. It has, this is where your request is. This is where you make your requests from. You know, we talked about post. GET is fetching an information. Post is you creating data in the backend. Put, like I said, is for updating. Patch also works like an update, and delete is delete an entire what's it called? Maybe data at the backend side. So that is what it entails generally. Just a moment, sorry. So, for example, now this is where I put in my address. This is where your address is entered. There's what we call variable. We have what we call global variable, and what's it called? We have what we call global variable, and I'm trying to remember the other one. But global variable generally is I save. I'm trying to access an address. Okay, there's what we call global variable and local variable, for example. Global variable is me saving a particular address, and any of these, what's it called? Any of this HTTP action can access that address. I don't need to start repeating the address in this address field. So what I saved this particular variable, can you see is saying unresolved variable? I have saved it. All I need to just do is call the address. All I need to do is call the address generally. So basically that's what it does. I have a post down. This is me trying. This is the body. Body is where you enter whatever you need to put into the backend side. There's a lot. There's what we call authorization. You can read up on authorization. Authorization confirms if I have permission to view a certain level of data. There's what we call authorization and what we call authentication. Can we note that down? Read up on authorization and authentication in API testing. Please note that down, authorization and authentication. I still remember those are questions that they would ask you. What is authorization and what is authentication? Please note that down. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow, what authorization and what authentication is. So please note that down. This is the body. For the body, we have where we write our, what's it called? Where we write the test we want to. I'm trying to look for a place where I have. Just a moment. I'm trying to see where I have just a moment. This is V4. So orders. Not to worry. Anybody that's giving you this would probably explain what each call does. So this is a body now, and this is data. This is me entering a body. For example, now in this particular API is used in a logistic company that I work with in Nigeria called Gokada. This is a post. I'm trying to put something inside. I'm trying to create something inside the database. Now, for this particular, if I should click on send is me sending all of this into the backend. And that is synonymous to me making an order. We know when you are trying to make an order, you're going to enter your details. You enter maybe your wallet, you enter your wallet, you enter your address. These are addresses. You enter maybe your phone number, you enter the request date, time, and all of those things. So this is how all those address and all of those things you enter, this is how they are arranged in the backend. This is how JSON arranges it in the backend. This is how they are stored in your database generally. You have your address, your latitude, longitude, because we work with Google Maps. So these are the things Google Map would have picked, your location, your current location. These are the information it sends to the backend and saves on the system itself. I have my pickup, drop off. I have this drop off address. This is the pickup address. This is where the address is. The drop off, where I'm going to drop all the packages as a rider. These are the drop off addresses. It has 2 drop off address. This is what the computer receives on the backend. So this is synonymous to all of the details that we enter on the application itself. I'm exposing you to a real life. I shouldn't even be doing this because this is a company's data. But this is what you'll be exposed to. All of those details you enter on your phone, on the back end, this is how they are saved. On the back end of things, this is how they are saved in the computer. This is what we get. This is what we get to store up in the database. This is how they are arranged. That is why we say database are arranged. They are collection of arranged data. So this is how it looks like. If I should send it on the back end, it's going to create an order. A request will be created, and these are the things they will see on the back end. So this is just me. These are dummy data that I use to test the application, for example. So this is me sending a request to the backend generally. This is me sending a request to the backend that help me post this once they post this, the necessary authorities, the necessary people will get their notifications. A rider will get a notification. Once a rider gets a notification, there's a particular thing you will see, different from what is here. These are what will eventually appear on the front end, on the application itself. Some of the things the rider will see is the location. Something like this as what the driver and the rider that accepts my order, he will see something like this, maybe the address, he would see the customer name, and probably maybe the phone number. So there are some certain data that are not allowed, that the rider is not allowed to see. That is where authorization and authentication comes into play. But for me that has access to the backend, I have authorization to some certain data, but the rider does not. So he is limited to a particular information, set of information. But I, on the backend, I see everything happening. So this is what happens in the backend. These are data in the backend. But your API is not written here. It is still like an HTTP address. That is where we'll be able to access it. And that HTTP address is what is stored here, called the base URL. This is a variable. It has been stored somewhere. All I need to just do is call it here and add these other things to it. Then I'll be able to access this particular estimates information in this particular, can you see my arrow? In this particular address. So when you hear APIs, this is not the API itself. This is a tool that is used to test the API. And this is the address where the API is written. Let me show you a typical example of how an API looks like. Can you just let me see, I'm right. Okay. Just a moment. So these are tests. These are the type of tests you are going to be expected to write. For example, let me even try and send this and see the response I get. So this is where the response what's it called, appears. One of the things, please note this down. This is an assignment to API response. They are numbered from 100 to 10, let's say 90. There's a particular response that means from 200 to 90, there's a particular response that's attached to. From 300 to 399, there's a particular response that means. From 400 to 499, there's a particular response, and for 500, there's a particular response. Please note that down. HTTP responses. They are in numbers. Maybe, for example, now, a successful response or a okay response is 200. Once you send a request and the response you get is 200, that means that response was successful. Let me do another here. Let me try and hopefully this goes. Just a moment, guys. Let me send this and see the response. Oh, I'm getting a non-response because I've not set the environment here. Okay. Okay, I know where the problem came from for this. There's also what we call environment. We'll look at that tomorrow. Bootcamp. What is in my bootcamp? Yes. So. Can you see the status response? Please unmute and answer me. Can you please see the status response? So I know I'm communicating.
Yes.
Yes.
What I have here is 200 okay. Standard response for successful HTTP requests. That means once you see a 200 response, that means this request that I made was successful. That's a 200. Standard response for successful HTTP request. So when there are particular actions or perform. For example, now let me just play around this. Let me just do something wrong here now. Okay, still giving me a good response. Oh, okay, I didn't save. Control S. I'm trying to see. Can you also confirm what you see now in this status?
Yeah.
Can you see it's a 404 now? That's because the address I entered is wrong. I've tampered with it. 404. I guess a few of us, probably all of us, will be familiar with 404 responses on some of these websites we try to assess. And you see a 404. That means not found. That means whatever request I made, they can't find it, is not found when they hit the backend side of things. The response we see here now is 404 not found. The requested resource could not be found, but may be available again in the future. But if I should rearrange or re-enter all of these data, the data I've removed. Just a moment. I'll get a, what's it called, 200 back. So that's what happens. There's always a response for each what's it called, for each request. There's always a response. So what you might be asking, what is my job here? All these things that look like jargons. What am I really going to be doing generally? Once you are given something like this, one of the things you would do is to write a test. This is a test. And I told you about one of the good parts or the advantage of Postman. These are snippets, these are prescripts, these are pre-written steps, tests on the application. All I need to do is just click on one of these. But not all tests are peculiar. They have one thing they do. So I can't just generally use everything that is here on all of the tests I have. For example, now, if I want to ensure that this test, once it is fired, once a user does this on the front end, they must get a status 200 OK. All I need to do is, for example, now, can you see I hope you can see my cursor and you can see what I'm trying to click on. Somebody can answer me. Okay, for example, now, if I click on this status code 200, can you see this line 1? User is listed successfully. So that means I'm trying to ensure that, no, okay, I think this is the one in line 2. I'm trying to ensure that the status code is 200. And I told you about what 200 does. 200 means it was a successful request and response. So that's what it does. So that means anytime I hit this send, I must get a good request, a good response. This is my response body. This is what I get from the backend. And that means my status is okay. But the moment I tamper with this, I click on save and I send, I get a status 400. That means my test result failed. Can you see the fail here? Status code is 200. That means it's failed. It's not 200. The condition is that the status code must be 200 for it to pass. But right here, it's failed. It was not found. So my test failed. I might not be able to totally explain how you're going to go about the test and all of those things. That's where the material takes care of. But I'm giving you a foundational knowledge or a basic knowledge or basic understanding of what this tool does. These are the things you will be doing as a QA engineer when you want to test an API. But if I should return all of these back to its default setting and I save, ensure you always save, and I send this, can you see everything passed now? I have a status 200, everything passed. Actually, this API I'm calling, it has a list of users. It's just like a dummy API. Generally, it has a list of users. So for now, one of the tests I wrote is for this particular request, for it to be known, for it to be a successful one, for it to know that it has passed. One of the, some of the requirements it must have written that I've written in the test is that it must have the status code which is 200, and that is what we have here. User is listed successfully. This is the body. This is the user that I requested from for. ID2, email, first name, last name. Another thing is response time is less than 1 second. My response time is less than 1 second. This is millisecond. This was the time the API call and I made the call, and the API was able to get the information in just 115 meter per second. Another thing again is user ID. Those are some of the things I check out here in line number 10. So that's basically what the API does and the Postman does. One of the things we also use to test, one of the uses of the Postman is also to test the speed. Like one of the things we are currently experiencing in Nigeria because of the change in currency is the fact that over millions of people are trying to access the same information, they are trying to use APM, the same APIs or different APIs. Over 1 million people are trying to use it at the same time. One of the ways we can use to test whatever APIs this bank are calling is Postman. If the request I made, maybe I'm trying to get my information, probably you have a saved beneficiary on your mobile app and you're trying to get their details. I can click on choose beneficiary. If it is taking me more than 5 seconds or 10 seconds for the application to load and show me the saved beneficiaries I have on my mobile banking app, then that means there's something wrong. Maybe the application is slow. I don't even need to use the application. With this written code and this API, I can do that. I will send a request and check the load time, because it's the same load time I have here that a typical user will be having. So it handles a lot generally. I really don't want to bombard us with too much information for now. Trust me, it looked strange when I was exposed to this, but as time went on, with the materials and read up and all of those things, I was able to come to understand what it really does. So do not be scared, do not be afraid. With time, it will look clearer. Just make our time to go through the materials and read up. So on that note, I would just want to stop today's class. So any questions from you guys? Don't worry, like they will say, there's no stupid questions, there's no strange question. Ensure you ask your questions, please. Kolajo, I hope I'm getting it right, please. Godson, Toyo, Fei, Wumi, any question from the strange thing you just saw now? Okay, let me start with Kolajo. Kolajo, any question from your end?
Kolajo.
Jo. Yeah, I've taken note of that. Any question from your end?
No, none at all. I believe the only thing that was a bit confusing was the Postman. When you opened the stuff to show us, and I believe once as time goes by, hang on that.
But you obviously have a laptop, I guess.
Yeah. I'm using my PC.
Okay. Are you going through the Udemy material currently?
Not currently. Yeah, I'm not going through it currently. Before the class.
Okay, please do. You could even just open the material and just read up and go through the API testing part. So you you take the knowledge you just got here, and you are able to grab it immediately. So you don't need to start reading it in the order it presents itself. So what you've learned here, just go on the material and just build up on what you've learned from here, basically.
Sure.
Godson, are you good? Are you fine?
Sir. Yeah, I'm fine.
Any questions from your end?
For now, no. I'll just have to use the Udemy and see what it has then. If I go through the Udemy, then if I have any question by then, I'll let you know.
No problem. Toyo, are we good? Any question?
Yes, I'm good, but I'll have to reach out to you after the class.
Okay, no problem. Faye, Alpha, are we good? It's Faye there. Faye, Alpha, are we good?
Yeah, so far so good.
Okay, Koni Baje. And please just also take the knowledge from what you got here and just go into API testing generally. If you have the material, it helps. So it's still fresh. Just go on the material itself, that particular part in the Udemy course, and let's build up on it. The moment you probably might wait, wanting to read other things in order, you might have forgotten a few of the things I've said. It's not like the guy will not explain, but with the knowledge you have now, it's very easy to build up on. Wumi, are we fine? Are we good?
Yes, I'm fine.
Any question, any concerns, worries?
For now, no. In case I have anything, I'll let you know. But for now,
No
no.
problem. No problem. Please just also do the same. I know you have the Udemy course, so please just go straight up on it. And you don't need to go out, what's it called? In the order it presents itself. Just go straight there, read up on it, watch what he says and what he does. Similar to what I've said, but he might just speak in depth and show you real time and all of those things. So just build up on the knowledge we've been able to gather today. And on that note, if there are no questions, I think we'll just call it a day for today and we will continue tomorrow. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Sorry, Mr. Shion. I don't know. I wanted to ask, did you send the slides from last week? Because I can't find it. I don't know.
Okay.
Did you send it to the group?
I'm not sure, but if I didn't, I would download and send it to you guys on the group.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So let's take care. Enjoy the rest of your day and we'll meet tomorrow. Take care. Bye, guys.